I wanted to come on here and talk about the way people are feeling at the moment in the world. I have been creating quite a lot of content around the decentralized ecosystem that we're building, and I feel so passionately about it. But I think these big marketing gurus and people out there that, they've got this perfect content, these perfect marketing funnels. That isn't me. It's just not me. I am. I'm feeling what everybody else has been feeling. I know that a lot of people out there at the moment just feel completely, I guess it's soul destroyed. The increasing centralisation of governments, institutions, big companies that, are harvesting our data. We have no idea how it's being used in detail. We can see that it's being weaponised. We can see where it's heading. We can see how the governments, the word democracy, there is no democracy, especially in the UK. I don't pretend to know everything about every government. I've got insight into it enough to see that this isn't just something happening in the UK, but British people have always been really proud, opinionated, but kind, polite people generally. This is me talking in as a generalization. When I think back to my nan and generations that talk about the war and they talk about how the values that they've instilled in their children, they have always been really, really proud, hardworking, witty, sarcastic, but polite, brilliant people. And I think the core of who we are has been attacked, it's been washed away. And that's not me wanting to get into immigration politics and, whose fault that is and why we're here, because I don't feel, and I know many people out there don't feel like this can be pinned on any one group of people, any one situation. It's something that has been chipped away at very deliberately over a period of time. When you wipe people away from their culture, when you wipe people away from their roots, when you detach them from family values, from their country's values, you get people who are confused. There's division. They turn on each other, and ultimately the only people that benefit from that are the people in control. And I'm actually a little bit emotional talking about this because sorry. Wow. I'm going to have to take a minute. Control is something that has been, I don't want to talk about me too much, but control is something that's been a massive issue in my past. And I've always been a critical thinker. I've always looked at the world and I've seen the patterns, connected the dots, but I used to feel too scared to speak out about things because people, when you challenge someone on a certain belief system, a lot of people talk about cognitive dissonance. You can get a really nasty side of them, and historically, I've not really been able to deal with that kind of confrontation very well. But control has been a massive part of my past, and I think it's why this is hitting me on such a personal level, and I know that a lot of people are feeling this on a real personal level. We're all feeling misunderstood. we're feeling trapped, we're feeling unheard, we are being governed by people who are supposed to be there to serve us, but instead they are weaponizing everything that they have over us. They are weaponizing our businesses, they are weaponizing access to healthcare, they are weaponizing our children. And the core of who is in control is rotten. It is completely rotten. And it's becoming more and more evident. I want to try and keep structure to this, but obviously I'm quite emotional over it. It's the first time I've ever shared anything quite vulnerable. And I want to make sure that I touch on what I know people are feeling. I'm speaking to more and more brilliant people, parents, business owners, hardworking people at the heart of our country who are frozen. They're trapped in fear. They feel if they comply with certain things that don't meet their values, and these values are values that have been at the heart of us as people for a long, long time, our values as parents, as having the ability to think, speak, act freely, so long as it's not harming anyone else. It's very hard to talk about, but we can see that with this increase in centralisation and the data that's being held and the walls that are being taken down to protect those data sets from being used just for their intended purposes, we can see how this is going to go. We can see it, and it's bloody terrifying. It is terrifying because we've got these muppets on TV. I mean, Keir Starmer telling us this is for our own good. We've got communities falling apart. We have got people scared to walk out in the streets. We have got people that are not knowing how they're going to pay their next month's rent, and a government has come in without any warning over this. I mean, there have been warning signs, but without publicly addressing this digital ID situation, and they've put it there and they're forcing it through, and they're spending millions and billions on something that we don't want, that goes against the very core of our values, the very core of who we are as people, the very essence of being human, of feeling like we have individuality, that we're allowed to be who we are, think the way we want to think, speak out about what we feel, and make our voices heard and known. And to have that ripped away through people that are supposed to have been elected to represent us, not to control us, not to put us into a state of shit and fear, it's just, I mean, it's unthinkable. A lot of people started to see the way things were going during COVID, and whether or not you are somebody that believes in everything that was said about the virus itself, or whether you're somebody that thinks it was a complete hoax, I think one thing that we can all agree on now is that there were things going on at that time that have led us to where we are now. And it is very clear that regardless of whether they created the pandemic, they made it up, or whether they used it to their advantage to push an agenda that was already there, it doesn't matter which side of that belief system you're on. It's very obvious now that the cashless society, the increasing digitalisation, the centralisation of services, and everything that's been ramped up since that time has led us to where we are now. And I think one of the reasons people feel so scared at the moment is because back then certain things felt very scary, but it died down with the vaccination passports. And, a lot of the people that were out there kind of condemning people for not being vaccinated or not having their vaccine passports, and saying that they were selfish. And I think the people that were on the side of it who didn't want to go along with those things were the people that could see the way things were going to be now. It wasn't all just about the drugs and what was in them. And I mean, there was a massive part of that, but a lot of it was, there are things that aren't adding up, and I don't trust what's being said. Why should I trust what's being said when the patterns and the data and the evidence behind it aren't pointing to what they're saying? They're pointing to all these things that have happened since. And so there's been a lot of, like, I think people might call it awakening. And I think the word awakening has changed. So not changed, but the word awakening is it's a much more almost tangible word now. During COVID, people being awake or not awake, or sheep and not sheep, it was all there was this really kind of negative connotation around the word. If you were if you were asleep, you were an idiot. If you were awake, you're a conspiracy theorist. And I think now people are realizing that waking up isn't about being, not that I have any issue with hippies, I love hippies, but it's not being some hippie that's, sleeping in a tent, washing their clothes in the river, sitting there wearing a tinfoil hat at night and, dancing naked under the moonlight. It is literally realizing that it is not a conspiracy, that control becoming too centralized, any one individual, group of people, group of influencers having too much hold over too much data, too many people, is dangerous. And we're waking up to the fact that the more they push this, the less we're going to be able to do about it. The further we get into that state of control, the more controlling their agenda can become, because they have the power there, they have the data there, they have no one holding them to account. There's nothing for them to worry about, because if we don't do as they say, they can switch us off. So now people are waking up to that fact. They're seeing that it's happening in front of our eyes. This isn't just some crazy conspiracy. And I think people, can, if there's one positive to come from this, it's that people can feel more united over that. And I think that anybody who has been feeling hard done by during COVID because of seeing things that perhaps they felt other people didn't understand, I hope a lot of people can show compassion to the people that they might have felt condemned by, because you don't know what you don't know, and you can't see what you can't see. And I think people, when people are scared, they can act in a way that isn't who they really are. And that's why, I believe in trying to show empathy and unity, and trying to set differences aside and coming from a place of understanding. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and chat about how people are feeling at the moment. People looking to leave the country. So many respectable, brilliant, hardworking pillars of our society and our economy are going, and people are getting frustrated with this being ranted about on social media and scaremongering and things like that. But it isn't it's not fear-mongering. I'm speaking to friends daily who are considering leaving the country. And I think, what they know deep down is that they are just running. And running is okay if you're actually going to escape it. But I think they also know deep down that this is everywhere. And you might have a few years more in one particular country, but it's coming for you. And for anybody who it isn't that easy for to up and leave because of perhaps the way your business operates. You might be in a situation like me where you're divorced and your children spend time in two different homes. So one parent deciding to up and leave the country just isn't an option. you're going to be looking, going, what am I going to be left here to fight for? Or, there are people going that we need. And I think that's partly why the mission that we're on is so important and it's so powerful. I'm still a little bit shaky in my voice because it's the first time that I've ever felt like there's something that I believe in. And as hard as this is, as hard as the situation that we as people are facing at the moment, there's also so much good to come from it, because we are seeing things for what they really are, and that can be a really scary thing. It can be terrifying, but it's also what's needed for better times to come. So I haven't really talked about the technical side of what we're building. That will come in other videos. I just wanted to touch on the emotional side of it because I think it's really important too. I think so many people are feeling the way I have and how my friends and my family do. And I wanted to acknowledge that and explain that that is a big part of why we're building this ecosystem, why we want to give back control to the individual, and why we want to put them in a place of hope and freedom and ability to operate again, where it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, whether you decide to move, whether you decide to stay, you have a sense of control back, and that is the most important thing. So if you're interested in hearing more about it, please subscribe, because this is something that we are going to be talking about. I won't always be this emotional. I think today was just a day where it whacked me, and I think everybody's having days like that. I can imagine a lot of you out there are feeling some days like you can get on with it, and other days it just feels, what is the point? And that's why the opportunity within this community and within this movement is so big. I think you have one conversation with somebody who can change the way your future looks, and everything feels different. And that's what this is doing for people. That's what this is doing for us. And that's what it can do for you as well. So please do subscribe. Please comment. Please ask questions. I have so much information that I can send to you. I don't want to overwhelm you with it, but we will hold as many live Q&As as people need and want. We will answer as many questions as we can, and we will get into as much detail over the ecosystem and the platform as we can while we're building it. So yeah, please do engage, because we want to make this as powerful for people as possible and to help anybody who's feeling how we have. Thank you.